Good day. Our presentation is titled Restoration Design for Freshwater Mussels. Presentation authors include Dr. Laura McMullen, Janelle Sabota, Dr. Celeste Mazzacano, and Kevin McKay. Collectively, we are a group of freshwater ecologists, invertebrate biologists, and restoration design practitioners at ICF based in Portland, Oregon. We hope our talk today portrays the heightened need to consider benefits of habitat restoration for Western freshwater mussels. The majority of restoration programs along the American West Coast focus on fish needs, and in the Pacific Northwest, this means salmon. As with most freshwater mussels, the life cycle of our western species is dependent on native freshwater fish. These intertwined life cycles make restoration and protection of native salmon and freshwater mussels interdependent. Salmon are a necessary host to the early developmental glochidial stage of western freshwater mussels, and mussels clean the water and contribute to habitat complexity, increase abundance of macroinvertebrates, and contribute to structural bank and river bottom changes that benefit salmon populations. The conservation of either can benefit both. The West is home to only a few of the more than 300 mussel species known in North America, but our endemic species are unique to the Pacific region. Our native mussel fauna, which includes western pearl shell, Margaritifera falcata, western ridge mussel, Gonidia angulata, and several species of floaters, Anodonta californiensis nataliana clade and Anodonta oregonensis kinnerly clade, are more closely related to Eurasian or Asian species than to other North American mussels. Anodonta beringiana, Yukon floater, is our most northerly western freshwater mussel, reaching high up into Alaska. These fauna have unique habitat needs that can be incorporated when designing stream restoration projects. Overall, there is a paucity of robust natural history and scientific study information on western freshwater mussels and their trends over time, though interest in understanding these fauna is increasing. General causes for western mussel decline include climate change, habitat loss and fragmentation, dewatering and flow changes, depreciated water quality, host fish species decline, and invasive species. Records from middens left by indigenous people have helped document the decline of western pearl shell mussels over time. Some extant large pearl shell beds in the Willamette River of Oregon have little to no juvenile recruitment and will thus decline over time. Western ridged mussel, once ranging from Southern California to British Columbia and east Idaho, has been lost from 43% of its historic range. Western ridged mussel beds appear to have declined in size over time and to have lower juvenile recruitment. Western ridged mussel has been petitioned for listing as an endangered species. Floaters, which are among the most tolerant of our western species, can be very abundant in some places where they occur, but even this group has been subject to shrinking ranges and local extirpation. While stream restoration has the potential to improve habitat for western freshwater mussels, stream restoration actions can also unfortunately create conditions in the short term that severely stress or kill local mussel populations, especially if surveys for mussel presence are not conducted prior to restoration planning. Some restoration actions that can cause problems for freshwater mussels include rapid water drawdowns, dewatering of habitat, exposing mussels to high temperatures or low dissolved oxygen, substrate disturbance, fine sediment pulses, and managing invasives with chemicals or physical methods that harm or disturb mussels. If mussels are known to exist at a restoration site, mussel surveys, multi-year monitoring, and best practice translocation techniques, including emergency salvage plans, all should be taken into account. Because none of our western species currently receive federal protection, most restoration project plans do not consider impacts on mussels. This situation is further complicated by the fact that both historic and current records are sparse, opportunistic, and incomplete, and many organizations are not knowledgeable about mussel habitat needs or survey and translocation techniques. Now, we review the qualities of freshwater habitat that are associated with healthy western freshwater mussel populations. In terms of substrate and depth, western pearl shell mussels prefer areas with a combination of cobble and gravel substrate interspersed with boulders. but they can be found in softer substrate in areas where the substrate is more stable. Generally, they prefer habitat with water that is 0.2 to 0.6 meters deep, but can be found in deeper water as well. Western ridged mussels may be found in areas with sand, gravel, or cobble, and are often associated with stabilized sand and gravel bars or bank edges. They may be found in waters approximately 45 centimeters to 3 meters in depth. Floaters prefer the softest of substrates and can be found in silt, sand, or cobble areas in waters up to 3 meters in depth. Western pearl shell and western ridged mussels also prefer areas with naturally stable banks. For flow, western pearl shell mussels are often found in slow to moderate flows of less than 1 meter per second, though flows may be up to 3 meters per second where there is stable cobble boulder substrate that creates flow refuge microhabitats. Western ridged mussel also prefer low to moderate flow velocity and can use flow refuge microhabitats. Anodonta prefer very low velocity areas with little shear stress. In terms of temperature, western pearl shell and western ridged mussels prefer cold temperatures. Floater mussels may be found in warmer temperatures than the pearl shells or western ridged mussels and have been found in areas as warm as 31 degrees centigrade. For other water quality parameters, western pearl shell need well-oxygenated water and are intolerant of eutrophication and turbidity. Western ridged mussels likely share these preferences. In general, freshwater mussels are sensitive to many pollutants, especially as juveniles. While these habitat characteristics vary among our western species, local adaptation of populations is often seen, and some species are found in a broader range of habitats and flow than expected, indicating mussel surveys prior to construction or restoration implementation should occur regardless of exact habitat type. Our western species can be found anywhere from ditches and sloughs, floaters, to pristine, rocky flow areas as in western pearl shells. Fish hosts used by western pearl shell include Chinook salmon, steelhead and rainbow trout, coho salmon, and cutthroat trout. Western ridged mussel hosts are not fully known, though they may be similar to western pearl shell, and include some sculpin species, dace, and northern pike minnow as well. Floater hosts include salmon, sculpin, stickleback, dolly varden, cutthroat trout, speckled dace, and red-eyed shiner. Although the focus of most restoration projects in the Northwest is aimed toward the preservation and recovery of listed salmon species, early consideration of mussel populations in project areas and consideration of native mussel habitat requirements can be incorporated to design restoration treatments that are effective for both freshwater mussels and native fish species. Focusing on salmon, it is informative to identify areas of habitat preference overlap. Broadly, western freshwater mussel juveniles cannot recruit where their host fish do not have access. Any restoration actions that open up access for host fish to areas of potential mussel habitat have the potential to increase populations. Actions that increase abundance of host fish also benefit freshwater mussels. Many native fish species, including salmon, need shallow water edge habitat in rivers to rear and forage. This shallow water edge habitat is also beneficial to mussels. Salmon also prefer a variety of substrate types depending on the species, including gravel for spawning and cobble and boulders for habitat, very much like the substrate preferred by western pearl shell and western ridged mussel. Natural bank stability is also of benefit to both mussels and salmon, decreasing fine sediment input from mass wasting events and providing a consistent habitat area. While salmon sometimes prefer faster flows, especially for timely juvenile outmigration to sea, they also need flow refuges and slow areas to feed and grow during their life cycle. Flow refuges are necessary for mussels in faster flows. Off-channel sloughs and ponds can be especially beneficial to floater mussels, which are often found in these habitats. Deleterious effects of high temperatures on salmon begin to show up when max temperatures reach 21 to 25 degrees centigrade, especially for extended periods of time. Average median lethal temperatures across a variety of freshwater mussels, not just western species, range from 21 to 42 degrees after 24 hours of exposure, though the preferred temperatures are lower than this for western species and likely very similar to those of their host fish. Just as with freshwater mussels, native salmonids prefer well-oxygenated water with low pollutant levels. So this begets the question, what types of restoration designs are beneficial for freshwater mussels? Certainly, removal or alteration of migration barriers to native host fish benefits both salmon and mussel populations. Care should be taken if dewatering must occur to temporarily or permanently relocate any mussels. To provide shallow water edge habitat along main channel rivers, restoration actions may be taken to lay back steep banks to create shallow slopes and transitions. To support naturally stable bank edges, large woody debris may be installed parallel to the banks and/or protruding at an angle into the stream to direct flow away from the toe of the bank. Native riparian plantings can also help with stabilization. To increase flow refuges, boulders or large woody debris can be installed to create backwater areas with lower velocities. To increase connection to off-channel areas, channels can be excavated to connect the main stem to off-channel areas. To provide healthy gravel and cobble substrate, gravels can be augmented, or if a natural supply of gravels is available in the system, large woody debris structures can be installed to encourage sorting. To improve temperatures and general water quality, native riparian plantings can increase stream shade and moderate water temperatures, and also help with filtration of pollutants. Connection and protection of groundwater and cool springs and seeps may also help with water temperatures. Overall, restoration aimed towards both native host fish and freshwater mussel habitat needs has the potential to improve populations of both groups of taxa. Construction practices and time windows for construction should take into account life histories both of the native fish and the mussels in a system. Thanks for listening to our talk, and we welcome any questions.